All right, I need a clean drawing space to start with. As you may have noticed, I am not drawing digitally. Instead, I am using paper. Is that paper even gonna show up on camera? Quick cleanup here. We're just using my desk. So the reason I'm here with just paper and a pencil, and sorry about the broken pencil, this is the first video in a series of videos that's gonna be all about drawing and sketching and getting those fundamentals down. And to get the fundamentals down, you don't need anything fancy. You don't need any fancy software or any fancy drawing tablets. In fact, these are things that you can do even if you only have a pencil and paper. And it doesn't matter if it's a good pencil or good paper. As you can see, this is the cheapest pencil I own, and I actually broke it. It's not even sharpened. This paper is just paper I grabbed out of my printer. It was the cheapest stuff they had at the grocery store. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about some things you can do when you're sketching to help you along in some good habits. The first good habit is how you actually hold your pencil. You've probably learned this in grade school. I know I did, and then I promptly forgot it. I have this bad tendency of tucking in my thumb, which forces me to hold my pencil with much more of a grip than I really want to. It's more natural to have your thumb and fingers placed properly. It's going to help you lighten your fingers, and if your pencil is taped, it's going to help hold your pencil together too. And whenever I start drawing, I like to come in here and move my hand around and practice shapes. I almost always start with circles. And this is just a warm-up to get you used to drawing. And I like to go over the circles several times. I could do the same thing with straight lines. How am I going to draw a square? This gets me used to holding the pencil. And the other thing that I'm trying to break here is another bad habit that I always have of drawing with my wrist. As you see here, I am drawing circles by holding my wrist steady and moving my entire hand. So whenever I draw a line, I'm getting in the habit of moving my entire hand and not drawing a circle by moving my wrist around. That's going to lose a lot of accuracy. You're going to get some wobble to your line and things like that. So that's something that I like to do starting out to get a little bit of practice in before I actually start sketching. So this is the first 5 minutes of all my sketch time, is just practicing lines, trying things at different angles, seeing if I can get solid lines. And the other thing that I'm paying attention to here, and you're going to see me doing this throughout this lesson, is I'm not being very specific about my lines. That's something you do when you're inking and you're putting your final lines in. When you're sketching, you just gotta get familiar with drawing your lines, drawing different shapes, getting those shapes to meet, and just getting a feel for the pencil and getting more comfortable with the pencil. The goal here is not to impress anybody, but to get some drawing done. Now, the next thing I do want to talk about is the process that I take when I'm taking my drawing from a sketch and the layers that I put upon it. When I start off, I draw very lightly. So if I'm creating a character, I might start by saying, okay, this is going to be the head, and maybe I bring the jawline down, something like this. And what you see me doing here is roughing in the shapes. I'm not worried too much about the details at this point. Maybe I find the center line for that head. That's the eye line. Get that rest of the line in there. Maybe I'm saying, okay, I want the nose to be along that center line. I want the eyes to be along these lines, something like that. And again, I'm sketching. I'm just drawing, my circle over and over again. So you see along the head, I'm trying to find where the edge of that head is. I'm trying to find where that jawline is. As I get the ears in, I'm trying to figure out where those ears are going to be, where some of those lines are going to be. Same thing with his eyebrows. Okay, I'm giving him some angry eyebrows. Maybe we flesh out those eyebrows, kind of make them stick out. So don't worry about your drawing so much at this point. I'm just trying to show you the steps that I go through. Because once I have my little character in place, maybe he's looking up, my next step is to come in and start to define the lines. And that's when I grip the pencil a little harder. Maybe I come in here and I make my lines thicker. So now I can tell which lines are really important to my drawing and which lines aren't. So I want to get his eyes, maybe his eyebrows in here. Now I want to decide, where is that jawline? Where is that going to be? Now, if I was drawing digitally, maybe what I would be doing while I'm in this portion is I might actually create a secondary layer. So I have my loose sketch layer, and then I have a secondary sketch layer on top of that. So I can actually reduce the opacity of that underlying layer so I can draw my cleaner sketch on top. That's something I do a lot. But really, what you want to do is you want to be loose. You don't want to be focused too much on the details. You want to be getting in the big lines. You want to be getting in the feel for where things are. You want to have the ability to just continue iterating and playing around with it. So if I didn't have a round head, for example, maybe I wanted to play with a different shape, I might start with something round and say, okay, maybe it's more bean shaped. This gives me the ability to come in here and figure out, okay, what is the shape of this head? Maybe I pictured something skinnier, so I come along this side. I try to find that line. I'm trying to figure out where my lines are going to be. You know, once I get that in place, then okay, maybe now I'm drawing my center lines in. Maybe now we're getting our lines in here and our eyes, and there's our little nose still going along the center line. We're starting to get these elements in place where we need them to be. But it's all about finding the lines, figuring out where things would go. And the more lines you add, the darker it's going to get, and the more you're going to feel like, okay, yeah, that's kind of where I want those elements to be. So now I am going to move over digitally, and I'm going to talk a little bit about either using a photo reference or drawing from real life. Because the assignments that I want you to focus on for the next week or two is this idea of practicing your sketching. All right, we're back into the world of digital drawing here, and I have Sketchbook Pro open, which is what I'm going to be using to draw. I have my pencil tool selected, so I can go ahead and draw right there. I've also taken that camera lid. It's actually called a lens cap. I'm sorry, I keep calling it the wrong thing. But I have a photo of it I took on my phone, sent to my computer, brought it into the program, so I have my drawing reference right here on the screen for me. Now, if I'm drawing this, I think something that I have always done, especially when I was just learning to draw, is I might look at it and say, okay, it's round, and I have my logo in the middle, and there's a cutout here, and there's a cutout there. And what I'm starting to do here is I'm creating a symbol. And we do this a lot when we're drawing. For example, if I'm drawing someone's head, I might say, okay, I have some eyes, and I have a nose, and I have a mouth. But these aren't actually eyes. This isn't actually a nose. This isn't actually a mouth. These are the symbols for those things. It's a symbol of eyes, a symbol of a nose, a symbol of a head. And that ends up creating an icon. And so we don't want to draw icons. We want to get used to drawing from real life. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to hit undo a couple times. I'm going to clear out my canvas. And I'm going to take a look at what I have here. And what we have is not a circle, but there's actually an oval. And again, I'm sketching because I'm just trying to get a feel for what that oval actually looks like. And as I'm sketching, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the look of that oval. And I might even come in and make things, you know, darker as I feel like I'm getting that oval the way I want it to. Or I might grab an eraser and come in here and clean up some of the excess lines that I think kind of shoot out. It's up to you. The purpose of this is really a warm-up sketch. And I think what's really good here and something to keep in mind is your warm-up sketch is just a quick 5 or 10 minute sketch that you could do at the beginning of the day to help you get used to line drawing. So this doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, this is going to be very sketchy, and you're going to see I'm actually not particularly good at sketching, but that's why I'm practicing this. Now, what else do we have here? Well, we have some lines along the side, and so I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to sketch in those lines, get a feel for where those lines are. And then, of course, I have this other arc along the bottom that kind of connects those lines, and then it curves in a little more, kind of right around there. I want to get a feel for that curve. I want to get a feel for the curve along the bottom as well. And then the other thing we have are these lines going here. Now these touch on the logo and they touch on these divots here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to very lightly sketch them in like that. And again, these don't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to take a look at this and I'm going to say, okay, there's other points here, these other lines that show me where those other divots are. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to try to figure out where is that line. And this is all part of getting used to the sketch. Same thing with the logo. The logo is going to go in right about there. And then I can come in here and start putting in some of the details. For example, this divot's in quite a bit. So I'm going to come in here and add my divot in. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make that rounded area. I'm going to make this flat area. Going to add my curve. So the purpose of this is not to be perfect. The purpose of this is start to feel form of the things that you're drawing. And as you do this every day for 5 or 10 minutes before you start drawing what you would normally draw, just drawing something you have on your desk or around the house, things that you wouldn't normally draw, you're start to get the feel of the form of the elements you're starting to create. And these sorts of things are going to get better over time. And you're going to get a feel for drawing boring things in your drawing and moving away from drawing symbols and the normal things we might want to draw and actually getting around to drawing things in real life. So right now it's going to be ugly. It's just going to be a sketch, but don't worry about it. What you're trying to do is just get a feel for it. And that's all I want you to do. I don't want you to take this sketch to the next level. I just want you to practice a little bit every single day. And just to prove it to you that this is going to look ugly, the first time I did this recording, I drew that. It looks absolutely horrible. But that's the idea, is every time you draw it, it's going to get a little bit better. If I did it a third time, it would get a little bit better. So just practicing this stuff over and over is really good for you.